Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to look at different kinds of sentences and the rules that they have to make them correct. Now, you have been writing sentences with your phonics words and you have been practicing a sentence each week to write on a Friday when mom or dad calls it out to you. And that sentence, in order to be correct, has to have certain rules. So we're going to have a look at this sentence and find, there are lots of mistakes in this sentence. So we're going to correct it and then make sure that we don't make those same mistakes in our sentences. So the sentence is, the dog ran with Sam. So the first rule of a sentence is that it must start with a capital letter. So we have called them big letters or daddy letters, but we are now in grade 1 in the third term, so we are going to call them capital letters. So these are small letters, and we have to make the first letter of any sentence to show that that's where the sentence starts, a capital letter. So I'm going to quickly fix that up, and we make that a capital T. So the dog ran with Sam. Another mistake. Remember, when you write your name, you are a boy or a girl. So boy is could be anybody. So boy is written with a small letter, B, and girl is written with a small letter, G. But when you have a name, your name is special to you. So that makes your name important, and that means it needs a capital letter. So the dog ran with Sam. So Sam is a name. It could be the name of a man, or a girl, or a boy, or a lady. Sam is short for Samuel, or Samson, or it could be short for Samantha, then it would be a girl's name. So, the dog ran with Sam. Now that's the end of the sentence. One more mistake. To show that it's the end, we put a full stop. So now our sentence is correct. So the first part of this is that this is a sentence, and the rules we learnt: capital letter to start, capital letters for names, and a full stop to end. So I'm going to put a full stop there to show that that is a sentence. We need to end with a full stop. So the next one, let's see. Sentence is, right, can you hop? Now, this is not a sentence. There are lots of mistakes in it, but it is not a sentence because I'm asking you something. And to show that I'm asking you something, I'm asking you a question. So we will not end this with a full stop because that's used just for a normal sentence. We are going to end this question with a question mark. So let's just start at the beginning and fix this up quickly. Right. Can, it's the start. To show the start, we need a capital letter. So can you hop? And now we're not putting a full stop because it's not a sentence. It's a question mark. And a question mark looks like a hook, looks like Captain Hook's arm that the crocodile ate. So let's just look at this. Same rules as a sentence. Capital letter to start, and you end with a full stop or a question mark. So you end with something to show that it's the end of the sentence or it's the end of the question. Now let's just have a look at the question mark so that you can draw it nicely. You start with a backwards curly K. So you start there. So that's the backwards curly K, right? And then you put a straight line down, lift up your pencil, and the dot at the bottom. So it's a backwards curly K. There's the correct way. Backwards, and then the straight line, and the dot at the bottom. Right, so now you know the rules for a sentence. If it's asking something, it's asking a question, we end with a question mark, and we start both of them with a capital letter. And now the very last one we're going to speak about is when we have a sentence. Let me write one quickly. Right, so this is a sentence, help me, Tom. And all of these marks are called punctuation marks, and they help us to read and understand words that are written together. So as I've told you before, if we don't put spaces between our words, or we don't put full stops, or we don't show that it starts with a capital letter, the person reading our work doesn't know where it starts, where it ends, what words are what if there's no spaces, and then we sound like turkeys when we try and read it. It just goes gobbledygook. Okay, so these help us to read properly and to write properly. Now, this is a sentence, and again, we've got mistakes. So let's first do the mistakes that we know. Help me, Tom. So help is the start, and again, it should be a capital letter. So we start sentences, questions, and this kind of sentence with capital letters, always start. Help me, Tom. So Tom is a name. It's a special name of a boy or a man. So it's a capital letter. And then it's not a question. I'm not saying, can you help me, Tom? But it's also not a sentence. When a sentence needs to be read by shouting or by getting a surprise or by making your voice sound a little bit scared, then we use something. It has a long name. It's called an exclamation mark. So it's a line with a dot, and it will go up here because that's what we end this kind of sentence with. So the person who is shouting this is maybe in a swimming pool and they need help, or maybe they've fallen down and they hurt and they need help. And the first person they see is Tom, so they are shouting to Tom. So when you read this, you wouldn't say, help me, Tom, because Tom wouldn't hear you, number one, and he wouldn't think it was important that you needed help. But if you really needed help, you would shout this, and you would say, help Tom. And to show that that's how you must read it, it would be an exclamation mark, because this kind of sentence is called an exclamation. Long word, exclamation. And this is called an exclamation mark when you want something shouted or you are surprised. If you open your present and you say, "Oh, yay, look what I got," I would also have an exclamation. When you need to show that you're surprised or that you're happy or that you're sad or that you need help or you need to shout, we use an exclamation. So just quickly, once more, rules of any sentence. We've got 3 kinds. We start with the capital. Any names must have capitals. And we either end, if it's a sentence, with a full stop, a question with a question mark, and a shouting or surprised sentence with an exclamation mark, because this kind of sentence is called an exclamation. This one is called a question, and this one is called a sentence. Right, now you are going to need to fix up all of the mistakes I've made in the sentences, the questions and the exclamations this week on your whiteboard, and then we'll mark them together. I hope you find all of my horrible mistakes.